Hi everyone, welcome to this video on identifying free anomeric carbons in carbohydrates. First, let us try to understand the meaning of the term anomeric carbon. Now, anomeric carbon is a ring carbon. A ring carbon that bears two oxygen substituents and is derived from a carbonyl group. So, this is the carbonyl group from which this particular carbon must be derived. Let's take the case of alpha D glucopyranose. Now here you see the structure of the open chain structure of glucose. I have marked the carbons for you. You know that carbon number 1 and carbon number 5 are the ones involved in forming the ring structure, that is a pyranose form of glucose, and this is how the pyranose forms looks like. Now from here, can you identify the carbon which is connected to two oxygens? Very evidently it is this carbon which is connected to one oxygen here from the OH group and one oxygen here which was used in forming the ring. Let us see our next example of beta-D-fructofuranose. Now in the same way, furanose form of fructose has been obtained. The only difference will be the carbons which are involved in this process. Now here you will see carbon number 2 and carbon number 5 are involved in the process. Glucose and fructose are isomers of each other. They are hexoses. It is just the forms in which they exist that are different. So here you see the structure of fructofuranose. Now you know why we call them alpha and beta? That depends upon the position of the OH on the anomeric carbon, whether it is above or below the plane. Now here again you will observe that this carbon which is present, this carbon is the anomeric carbon because it is connected to one oxygen here and one oxygen over here. So that is how you can identify the various anomeric carbons which are present in simple sugars. Now let us see an example of maltose, which is a disaccharide. Maltose, as you can see, the structure is made up of two glucose units. One glucose unit is linked to the other glucose unit by the first and the fourth carbons. So that you can very clearly see in the name of the compound itself. Now let's see if this sugar has a free anomeric carbon or not. Now what do we understand by free anomeric carbon? Free anomeric carbon means the presence of an OH group on that particular carbon. Now how is this important? This is important because it helps the molecule to break its cyclic form and go into the open chain form. We'll see that. First let us examine the structure of maltose. So here you see that this carbon of maltose is the anomeric carbon because it is connected to two oxygens, one over here and one over here. On the other hand, this carbon of maltose is again anomeric because it is connected to one oxygen here and one oxygen over here. Now in this slide you will observe how the ring opening in maltose takes place. So this is precisely the same structure that we discussed earlier. Now see this part of the molecule. It is this bond which is actually breaking in maltose when it is exposed to certain conditions. And when this bond breaks, maltose is able to get back its aldehyde group because it is made up of glucose, and you know that glucose is an aldose sugar. So at least one part of the disaccharide, one monosaccharide of the disaccharide is able to get back its CHO. Now how is this important? This is important because it helps the sugar behave as a reducing sugar. A reducing sugar is a sugar which is able to reduce oxidizing substances such as Benedict solution or Fehling solution. So when these sugars give a positive test for these solutions, we call that sugar as a reducing sugar. So how does a reducing sugar behave as a reducing sugar? By converting into the CHO group. This CHO group is the one which can get oxidized. Similarly, let us examine the structure of some other disaccharides such as lactose. Now let us see in this structure, taking the help of the previous one, whether lactose contains an anomeric carbon which is free or not. Now you see this carbon, it is not necessary that the anomeric carbon has to be carbon number 1, but incidentally in this case also it so happens that the carbon connected to two oxygens is carbon number 1. Now this carbon is definitely occupied. If you try to break the bond over here, the sugar will actually break. So it will not be taking part in the reaction as it is supposed to. Similarly, over here you see a free anomeric carbon group. Why do you say it is free? Because it is connected to two oxygens and because there is no other bond attached to this oxygen. It is basically free. So that's why we call this OH group as free, not being connected to anything else apart from the anomeric carbon. So lactose, like maltose, is also a reducing sugar. Now let us see this peculiar case of sucrose. We saw that lactose, maltose, both of these are reducing sugars. If you examine the structure of glucose and fructose, you will see that they are also reducing sugars. But what happens in the case of sucrose? Now in sucrose, this is the anomeric carbon. I hope you've learned to identify this now, connected to two oxygens. On the other hand, this is also the anomeric carbon, which is connected to two oxygens. You agree with that? Now, if you examine the structure of sucrose, both the anomeric carbons are involved in further bond formation. So they don't have free OH group. So we can say that the free OH group is absent. Due to this, sucrose becomes a non-reducing sugar. This is a very common question asked at the competitive exam level. Sucrose is a non-reducing sugar due to the anomeric carbons being occupied and absence of free OH groups. So therefore, we learn from this example, we learn that it is important to have a free OH group at the anomeric carbon for a sugar to be reducing in nature. Once again, the meaning of the term non-reducing is when a sugar is unable to react with Benedict solution and Fehling solution. Basically give negative tests for these. On the other hand, a sugar is reducing when they are able to react with these solutions. Now here I have some more examples of sugars which are non-reducing in nature. Let's examine their structures. You see trehalose, this is another very similar structure to sucrose. You see that here also the anomeric carbons are involved in further bond formation, due to which there is absence of any free OH group. So therefore this becomes a non-reducing sugar. Same way, the glucopyranoside of methyl glucopyranoside of glucose, that is the presence of an alkoxy group, basically a methoxy group, due to which we call this as a methyl glucopyranoside in the in place of OH group. So in glucose, in place of the OH group, which would be, otherwise this would have been a beta glucose. So in place of the OH group, we have an OCH3 group, due to which again at the anomeric carbon, a free OH group is absent. Hence, the methyl glucopyranoside of glucose, either beta or alpha forms, also come under non-reducing sugars. One more example of a trisaccharide, a sugar called raffinose. Here also you will observe that the anomeric carbons are further involved in bond formation, due to which OH group is absent. So you may get questions at the competitive exam level where you are asked to find the number of anomeric carbons. So all that you need to do is see which carbons of the ring, only in the ring, are involved in bond formation with two oxygens. And one of those at least should be a free OH group. That ensures that the sugar has a reducing nature. It has a free OH group, it has a reducing nature. Okay guys, I hope you have understood this concept and this is clear in your head now. So I hope you will be able to apply this concept in questions. Good luck.